Smile.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's Hector Aguilar with Aguilar Realty Group, together with Ben, your agent. As always, we're here on our Wednesday Hot Topic of the Week. We want to thank you for joining us. Ben, who do we have as our special guest today?
I'm really happy to introduce you guys all to Dave Alvarez. Good friend of mine, been a friend for over 10 plus years, and we reconnected. And he told me that he was a ADU specialist. So
Awesome.
welcome to our live, Dave, and we're super excited to have you explain what you need and how you get an ADU. So thank you, Dave.
Well, thank you guys for the opportunity for allowing me to be here, and glad I can share any knowledge I can with everyone out there.
We appreciate that. ADUs, Dave, has been a hot topic as of recent over the last 2 or 3 years, but I know that, home additions, expansions, conversions has been something that's been something that homeowners have been doing for many years, but ADUs is really popular. And, a lot of our clients have questions on how to do them. I know Ben right now was doing some research on an ADU, and some of my clients have been asking as well. So I wanted to take this opportunity to speak with someone like yourself, who's a specialist in ADUs, and kind of tell us a little bit about ADUs, what they are, how they work in the process. So I know that you currently work with LA's Premier Construction. Tell us a little bit about yourself and some of your experience.
Absolutely. So not many people know, but ADUs have been around for over 10 years now. So a buddy and I, when we were in college, we kind of started doing this, designing additions, small scale things for homes. And then I started getting into like state law. So there's a lot of Senate bills, assembly bills that allow you to do certain things. So after we did a few additions, we started kind of going into the guest house portion of it. So I started reading up on that about 10 years ago. And ADUs were allowed back then. Most of them had a lot different requirements that they do now. They're really hot right now because they're state mandated, and one of the things that they've kind of been more lenient on is the lot size requirements.
Right.
So about 10 years ago, you had to have a 10,000 square foot lot.
Right.
You had certain requirements. You had to meet parking requirements. A lot of that has changed over the last 2-3 years. So a lot more lenient with what you can do with your property. So
right. And I would say that those requirements and laws have changed because of the need for housing, right?
Right.
They're probably being less and less restrictive, but I'm sure there's still some guidelines, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So each jurisdiction has to meet regional housing assessment needs, which is known as RENA. So they have to make sure that they comply with all housing requirements, and ADUs happen to fall under that section to comply. So cities are allowing these ADUs. Obviously, some of them make their own modifications. So whatever the state hands down, the city can go ahead and make some modifications to certain things, such as height requirements, to kind of comply with zoning regulations in their city. So it's different in every city.
So let's talk a little bit. That's news to me that ADUs have been around for 10 years, but let's explain what exactly is an ADU.
Okay, so an ADU is it's an accessory dwelling unit. It's what it stands for. Think of a guest house, granny flat, something like that. It's a attached unit. So think of it as multifamily now. That's the easiest way to put it. So it can be a detached building from the main house. It can be attached. There's a junior accessory dwelling unit, which allows you to convert existing livable square footage from your house. So you can convert existing square footage. You can't add new square footage.
I see.
So
would a garage be existing square footage that you could maybe convert into an ADU?
That's not a junior ADU. When you convert that, that's not livable space. So that would be a regular ADU.
Okay.
So junior is only existing livable attached to the main dwelling.
Got it.
What would be an example of a junior ADU?
So let's say you have a 2,000 square foot house, and you added a wall somewhere in there to create two separate units within that 2,000 square foot house. You just have to create two separate entrances, two exits, bedroom requirements, kitchen requirements, things like that, and you're allowed up to 500 square feet max.
I see. So would it be common? Like you said, let's say you have a single family residence and you divide portion of that single family residence, and then you can create a little ADU.
Correct. Up
Gotcha. Junior ADU.
500 square feet. That's where people don't understand.
That's the maximum is 500 square feet.
For a junior ADU, yes.
Okay.
So 500 max and existing livable square footage. Those are the two
Awesome.
important things to remember.
Okay, awesome. Ben, you had a question.
Yeah, just a quick pause. I want all the viewers coming on, just a reminder, if you like this information, it will really help our algorithm by clicking like and loves. Show us some love right now. Show them some hearts, some likes to help the algorithm. And also, if you have any questions during the broadcast, go ahead and comment below, and we'll answer it at the end. So,
Thanks, Ben, for that reminder.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, now that we understand what the difference between an ADU and a junior ADU is, and we now know that a junior ADU can be no larger than 500 square feet, what are the parameters in terms of what an ADU, in terms of size? What's minimum, maximum? Tell us a little bit about that.
So minimum, you're looking at about an 800. Well, it depends. There's a lot of requirements depending on what the client wants to do. Typically, it's 1,200 square feet. So
Okay.
you're a 1,200 square foot ADU. That would be a 2-bedroom minimum right there.
Okay.
You can go smaller. Some cities have certain requirements and cap. For instance, they'll say, you know what, you're allowed up to 80% of your existing livable square house. So if you have 1,000 square foot house, 800 would be the
800 would be the max.
So
Okay.
it's really important to look into what your jurisdiction requires. Now, a lot of people think that the state makes these requirements and those are their guidelines, but it's not. There's more than that.
And speaking of that, I think you specialize. I mean, I think you guys work in all counties, but you've been doing a lot of work mainly in LA County, right?
Yeah, we do tons of ADU. So we've kind of focused on buying properties and then doing a junior ADU, keeping the single family, and adding a detached ADU. So there's 3 dwellings in one lot.
Wow, that's amazing. And out of curiosity, when you market that property, do you market it as a single family, or do you market it now as multifamily?
That's where I kind of stay away from. I focus on the design and the architecture and
the construction.
Yeah.
Right on, right on. All right, so we know that some ADUs can be no more than 1,200 square feet, depending on the city that you live in LA County or in the county that you live in. It could be 80%, no more than 80% of your current existing dwelling square footage, which makes sense. We don't want that ADU to be larger than the single family that's already there, I'm assuming, right?
Correct.
And I know that we alluded to the question of converting garages into an ADU. I know a lot of families have done that. They've converted garages, typically without permits. It's really common in Latino families and larger families. A lot of homeowners do that because they figure it's a minimum risk, and most of them don't include a kitchen or a bathroom. It's basically they convert them into a living square feet, maybe a bedroom, maybe a gym, stuff like that. But can a garage be converted into a formal ADU?
Yes, it can. And you have to meet the requirements for kitchen, bedroom, bathroom. So we actually do a lot of garage conversions as well. And it's typically a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, a small living area, and a kitchen. You have to have kitchen requirements on there. We just have to make sure that it complies with egress for safety purposes.
Okay.
Yes, you can. And you can always add additional square footage to the garage if you'd like as well.
Awesome, because I was about to say that because most garages are 20 by 22, which is about 440 square feet, more or less. So if you're converting a garage in 440 square feet, may not seem like a lot of square footage if you're just doing a 1-bed, 1-bath, but it's good to know that you can add some square footage to that. What's typically, how much can you add to it if you had to?
To be honest, most people just kind of convert the garage and leave it as a 1-bedroom.
Right.
It's a lot cheaper. So a lot of people, with construction prices going up,
a good point.
Started doing the 1-bedroom, and we've been really busy with that, converting garage to 1-bedrooms. Some people still want to do the detached ADU, so we do that as well. Or sometimes we do both. We do the garage conversion and if it's attached to the house. So what we'll do, we'll convert that into livable square footage first, because there's ways to go around all this. So what you do, convert the garage into livable space if it's attached to the house.
Okay.
Because parking requirements are more lenient now.
Right.
And then eventually you can get a permit and convert that legally into a junior ADU.
Right on. You mentioned something that was really important, and I think most people are concerned about is parking requirements, right? We're starting to see a lot more cars per family. You're talking about, if you have, and you're starting to see a lot more adult kids stay with their parents. So that kind of adds more cars to the neighborhood, more cars to the street, more cars to their parking area. So tell me a little bit about parking requirements. Will that change city to city, or is it a pretty standard in most cases?
So it's pretty standard as far as they have requirements where you can be exempt if you're within a certain distance to public transportation, which is a metro, a bus stop. Those are the two common ones, or any other type of transportation. So if you're within, I believe it's half a mile, you're exempt from parking requirements.
I believe you're right.
And so, no, it is, because all you have to do is just show on the plans a map, show the bus stop number, show the walking distance, and if it's under 0.5, you're golden, and you're
Awesome.
parking requirements.
I know that parking could be a nuisance in some of the neighborhoods and communities, like I mentioned before. There's a lot more adult children that are staying at home, and it increases the number of cars. Like in my family alone, I want to say I have maybe 6 or 7 cars from the 4 adult kids I have, my mother-in-law, and of course my wife and I. We have our car, our own, and then we have our weekend traveler, right? Our excursion that we haul our skis with and our boat with and all that good stuff. So you can imagine that there's a lot of parking requirements, right?
Oh no, I agree. I have multi cars too, and there's my driveway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
and that was what I was going to allude to is
that's
if you convert the garage to an ADU, are you required to put like what is it, a carport in most cases, or no?
no. You don't need to, because that becomes a parking spot now. So no, you don't have to. You just have to show where are you parking. As long as you can park the vehicle inside the property, you're fine.
Okay.
A lot of people, or a lot of properties in LA have a garage towards the rear of the property,
Mm-hmm.
and you have that long driveway, and you can fit 4 cars easily, and that's
Beautiful.
a requirement right there for parking, and so you're exempt. You
That's
don't
awesome.
you don't have to add additional carports. You don't have to add an additional garage. It's great the way the state has kind of been more lenient these past couple of years.
Awesome. Moving from parking requirements to like energy requirements, right? I'm assuming that adding an ADU or a junior ADU, or maybe adding an additional 1,200 square feet to the grid or to the power panel. There's 2 questions that come to mind. Number one is, do you need to upgrade your power panel one? And more commonly now, with solar panels being really, really popular, is there a requirement by different cities or counties or different areas that require solar panels?
For the first question regarding the panel, yeah, you may have to upgrade a panel to about a 200.
Okay.
Especially when you have a 1,200 square foot ADU and let's say a 1,500 square foot home. 100 amp is not going to do much, mainly because a lot of appliances are required to have their own circuit breaker,
Right.
AC units, things like that. Your second question, a detached ADU, yes, would need to be solar ready. So
Okay.
when I create the plans, we make sure that they're solar ready. I've worked with companies regarding that, so I kind of know what to put on the plans. Once it gets approved, it's a separate permit process. So the solar company would come in and pull the permit for that, give all the calculations regarding that.
So when you say solar ready, the ADU has to be solar ready in the case that the city requires it, or if you want to add solar to the property.
The state requires it now. The state and building code
requires it. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say you have an ADU, an existing ADU from years ago, you've grandfathered in, you don't need one, but moving forward, if you do want to build an ADU, you have to have solar panels on it. Yep.
That is correct, and that is California building code requirement.
Okay. When did that change?
2020.
2020. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it also changed when all new construction also has to have solar panels on it, right? About the same time?
That same year. About every year or two, each jurisdiction has to adopt changes to the California building code. And one of those changes was new construction, including ADUs, have to be solar ready and have solar panels on it upon final.
Right on. Well, thanks for clarifying that. I think that definitely helps.
That's huge.
And for most people that are building ADUs, the majority of homes in Southern California, at least the areas that we serve, which is like the East San Gabriel Valley and Inland Empire, most homes are built in the mid 50s, you know, early 50s to maybe 58, 60s. And then as you start getting into, you know, for example, like Ontario, Montclair, Fontana, you start getting out a little further, you'll start seeing homes that were built in the 60s, 70s, then 80s. And of course, you know, have new construction that was built in 2000 and beyond. So you may not need to upgrade solar panels, but your power panels, but most homes in LA, they were all wired with the 100-watt power panels. So upgrading to a 200-watt or 200 amp panel is probably a good idea, right?
Absolutely. Anytime you can have more power, it's great. You never know what you're going to do. It's great to have more power, especially with multi-units. What some people do is they put sub panels. So they'll add a sub panel to the ADU, or they'll put separate meters sometimes. It really depends on the client and what they want. If it's for family, they typically just put a sub panel on the ADU, and they run the line from the main panel.
Gotcha.
If it's for investment purposes, some clients, they want their own separate utilities, separate meters.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah, because ours, we got a whole separate panel and everything for its own ADU. So yeah.
I think as an investor or investment property, if you're adding an ADU and a junior ADU and you're looking at it as a rental opportunity or rental property, it's definitely a smart idea to have separate sub panels or separate panels or even separate meters for those units, so that each individual unit can be billed individually, separate from the main house, right?
Yeah,
that's correct. And it really depends on what the client wants. So
right on.
I always tell people, what is it that you want? Tell me what your needs are, and then you kind of go from there.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing some information on the panels and the power. One of the questions I had for you is, most people want to know, how do I get started with the process of getting an ADU on my property? What's the first step that they should consider, Dave?
So the first thing is, it depends on how they want to do the process. So they can hire someone to do all the work for them, or they can go out and obtain the information themselves. It's not that difficult. It's just going to the jurisdiction's website. Usually you type in ADU, and they'll give you all the requirements there. You'll have setback requirements, height, maximum square footage allowed, and so forth. So it's all your development standards. You start looking at your lot. Do I have the space to build it? Where can I build it? So it's not rocket science. It's just kind of applying a little bit of knowledge and saying like, okay, yeah, I think it fits here. Once you kind of figure that out, then you start consulting with a designer, someone who knows what they're doing. Contact them. We take a lot of calls regarding like what they want to do. I try to help them out with the process. I'll let them know whether they can do it or not. I know some lots are relatively small, and you don't have the space for it. So some people, what they do is they'll convert the garage if they wanted to do that route. So once you get your requirements from your city or county, then you start the design phase. The design phase really has to do with a relationship between the designer and the client. It's what they want. And one of the things I always ask is, what are your needs? What do you want it for? Who is it for? Because I kind of need to know who's going to be utilizing it. If it's a commercial, I try to maximize space and add 3 bedrooms if I can.
Okay.
So a lot of it has to do with who it's for and what they want to do with it. If it's family, I kind of understand. I'm like, okay, well, what are their needs? Are they handicapped? Do they need handicap stuff? And kind of go from there.
Right on. Now, are clients able to hire LA's Premier Construction to do that work for them, or is it? I mean, I know you give them an option that you'll walk them through the process and they can do it themselves, but at some point, we're not builders. I'm not a GC. Obviously, I understand real estate, lots, setbacks, things of that nature, but most people don't. So, in that aspect, are they able to hire you guys to do the ADU for them?
Absolutely. We can do the whole process if they'd like. Some clients, what they want to do is, depending on what their budget is, they do all the work up to the design phase. Sometimes what they want to do is they're like, you know what, I want to submit it myself to save cost. And
That brings up my next question, right? Like to save cost, who if they do it on their own, who gets the permits? The owner gets the permits, pulls permits, pay for fees and things of that nature, or by working with you guys, do you guys pull the permits and do all that stuff? How does that work?
we typically pull the permit. It's always best to get a licensed contractor to do it. Uh, you, we've gone through numerous clients where we had to go in and refurbish pretty much a mess that was done.
Right.
The owner pulled the permit. They didn't know what they were doing. They hired other people to kind of do work, and it was just kind of a mess. So
right. Sometimes, like they say, right, like going the less expensive route sometimes ends up costing more because you have to rectify some of those issues or challenges that were created by doing it yourself, right?
Exactly. So one of the things we always recommend, we recommend pulling the license. Like Alex Premier has a general contractor's license, been doing it for 15 years. However, if they want to pull the permit themselves, that's okay. We can work with that too. They just, when it comes to that, the property owner assumes liability for anything that goes on there, and that's something important to know.
Awesome.
So the what I say typically when we save money is like, okay, you want to deal with the city or the county, go for it. Like we can save you money there because it takes time. It's not just going in 5 minutes and you're out. Sometimes you have to wait hours. So it's they can save money that way, and we're happy by helping out however we can.
Awesome.
So just let's wrap it up with this question, and then if we have any questions, we can ask. But what is the average cost to build an ADU?
That's a great question, Ben. Thank you for asking that.
That's kind of a difficult question to answer because it really depends on what they're doing. A smaller, like a garage conversion, is a lot cheaper than doing a 1,200 detached square foot ADU.
Right.
So let's see what else. If you're,
let's say, because I know it's a hard question. Someone that, okay, if it's a garage, let's say a garage that's standard that you've been seeing, 1 bed, 1 bath, 1 kitchen, with the basic materials, because I know it comes down to materials and everything like that. So what have you seen the price range been?
So from what I've seen, it ranges anywhere from 50,000 up to 200,000, 300,000, depending on what's being done.
Wow.
Remember that you have to cut into the concrete for sewer. You have to bring in electrical underground. There's a lot of requirements that cities have that clients kind of don't understand. It's
and they don't expect. They just think it's already 4 walls. It's already there.
You
but
just put it on there.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's sticks and stones, right?
Yeah.
That's what most people see it as.
Yeah, that's what they see.
And like I said, like people, they go off, they start doing it themselves, and they don't realize everything that it takes. It's not something. I'm not out on the field doing the dirty work. I'm out there just making sure it gets done, processed correctly. I look it over. I'm in the office drafting the plans.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, obviously, you guys have a team that does all the construction work, but knowing that you have someone out there making sure that it's being done right according to specs, according to city requirements. I mean, that's the reason why someone would come and hire you, to make sure that that's all done. So that's great. Typically, I know from city to city, it's going to vary, Dave, but what's the process, or how long does it take from permit to completion? Typically, is it 3 to 4 months? Is it 6 months out? Like, what's the average?
It depends on where you're working. Each counties are a lot more difficult. I don't know why. They take long.
Okay.
Yes.
City of Los Angeles takes long.
It does. It took ours of almost a year.
Yeah,
wow.
that's typical for something.
Yeah.
Small. And let's remember, ADUs are now ministerial reviews, meaning that they don't have to take it in and review it before you can submit to building. You can submit plans directly to the building department for permits.
Okay.
And it still takes this long.
Wow.
So it depends on where you work. I've gone it done as fast as 2 months, up to 2 years.
Now, it's important to note that, for example, I know Ben lives in Avocado Heights, right? And that's an unincorporated area of LA County. There's also Belinda that's down the street from our office that's unincorporated part of LA County. Now, you have to submit your plans and permits through the county. But there are cities within the county, for example, like the city of Pico Rivera, the city of Montebello, the city of South El Monte, or the city of El Monte. Those are all cities that are within the county, but they also have jurisdiction because they're an actual established and incorporated city. So where should someone go, or where do you need to go to get this process started when you're in a city that has an incorporation?
You need to go to City Hall. So you go to
Okay.
City Hall and you start off with the planning and building departments.
So going back to starting the research on how to start an ADU, it'd probably be a good idea to say ADU in the city of Montebello, right? Like be specific to where you live. If you know you live in the county, go to the county website, right? How do I start a process with ADU in Riverside County? But if you live, for example, in Eastville, that's an incorporated city, or let's say Corona, that's part of Riverside, type in ADU in Corona. That way you guys get the right information and not have to go between the county and the city. If you live in a city, start with the city. If you live in an unincorporated part of a city, then start with your county. Would that be safe to say, Dave?
Yes, and it's always you can always just give the City Hall a call and just say, "Am I in your jurisdiction or not?" Sometimes they'll say, "Oh yeah, you are," or "No, you're not. You're right outside. I think you're in this county or this city." And most people are pretty helpful when you call.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I know that we've gone over a lot of questions. Ben, did you have anything else before we get wrapped up here?
No, we got 2 questions, which Shala, our teammate, Shala, how about a basement in Pasadena? Is that doable?
Oh, that's a great question, Shala.
Yeah.
So a basement, most likely not, because you're probably not going to meet egress requirements.
I see.
A lot of requirements have to do with complying with accessibility. And if you can't access this, I'm sure if there's stairs leading down to a basement, that's something we would have to consult with the city, depending on the stairs and how they were built. Do they meet certain requirements? But most likely not.
And also the other thing would probably be safety, right? Like if there's an emergency, can you get out of the unit properly?
Yeah.
Can you get through the windows? Can you get through the doors? There's an exit, things of that nature, right?
Well, some basements are half underground. I've seen that, but most likely not. Like those are very difficult because a window has to be a certain height from the floor. So if it doesn't meet that requirement, you won't be able to do it.
Understood. We also have another question from Liz Pachardo. What's the question that we have from her?
What about Ontario? I think she's wondering if you go out to Ontario as well.
Well, Ontario, if I'm understanding correctly too, is one of those cities that has unincorporated parts of San Bernardino County and city parts. So like Dave said, I think the best thing for you to do is just call your city. Call your city first, City Hall. Say, hey, I just want to make sure, am I within the city limits of Ontario or am I outside? And they'll let you know, and then then that'll give you an idea of the next step you need to take in terms of getting the process started.
And for Ontario is my neighbor. I live in Rancho Cucamonga, so I know Ontario pretty well. And yes, I've done an ADU in Ontario. They do allow them there.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that question. Thank you for your question, Shala and Liz. Really appreciate the questions and the opportunity to bring you more information. Dave, I couldn't be more grateful for your time and your information. I know that ADUs is really a hot topic because there's such need for housing, right? And I think that's the reason why the states and local cities have allowed ADUs is to kind of address those housing needs in a manner that. But here's the deal, and most people don't understand this: is the land available in local cities? There's not much available to build new homes, right? So how you increase housing opportunities is by allowing the ADUs, maybe converting garages, maybe adding an additional property to your lot. In fact, there's a few Senate bills that now allow you to split your lot and build 2 actual residential units on each of those lots. You have to meet some requirements, but again, these are ways that the state, cities, and counties are addressing the need for more housing in our local communities. So, Dave, I really appreciate your information. If you guys have any questions, you guys want to start the ADU process, please feel free to reach out to Ben or myself. We'll put you in touch with Dave and get the process started. And if you're an investor, just like Dave mentioned before, if you're an investor and you're sitting on a lot and you want to increase your income opportunities, an ADU might be the fastest and quickest and probably least expensive way to do it. rather than having to sell a single family residence and maybe buy units. Hey, you can make it multi-residential units. So keep that in mind as well. We work with investors, current homeowners, and we'd love to assist you in getting an ADU built on your property as well. So Dave, really appreciate you getting on. Thanks for all the information. Anything else in closing that you want to let us know? Share with us?
Yeah, you started mentioning the lot split. So that's Senate Bill 9. So if anyone's interested, just research it. There's requirements as far as what you can do, where you cannot actually split the lot. So there's a lot of requirements regarding that.
Wonderful. And I'm assuming that you're experienced in also those builds as well, correct?
I'm starting to read up on that Senate bill and trying to familiarize. I know historic properties are not allowed.
Right.
Certain lots don't require it. So you just have to make sure that you comply with those requirements too, because people are starting to ask about that.
Right. And it starts with the mere question, right? Wanting to maybe build more housing in your lot, maybe expand the opportunity of maybe rental income, or like I said, most adult young children are now staying at home. Maybe you have some adult children that have a small family and you want to maybe convert your garage so that they can live in the garage, or maybe add an ADU of up to 1,200 square feet that could be a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom. That way you can help them build their own little family nest egg as well on your same property, and not, they wouldn't have to be subjected to having to either move out of state or move like further out in the county. Those are a lot of the reasons why people would consider building an ADU. So give us a call. We'd love to connect with you if you guys are thinking about it. Ben and I can definitely put you in touch with Dave. It looks like, Ben, we have another question.
Yeah, Shala's asking again. I've seen that now there are units that we can build as ADUs. Have you seen that? Expand.
When you say units, Shala, do you mean
I know
a
what
property that already has 2 or 3 units on it?
No, he's probably talking about they sell like kind of like a kit where they have housing, the buildings ready to just deliver and drop them off.
Oh, I see.
He might be talking about that. It's yes and no. Some of these don't meet a lot of requirements, so it's always good to just check with the city on that. Most cities have said no to us already regarding that, because we've had questions regarding that.
So bringing like let's say
they're more like sheds is what they look like.
Yeah.
Right. I was gonna say like tough sheds, or like the wooden sheds that they sell at Home Depot, things of that nature, right?
Yeah, because she's saying there's no windows. I mean, so
right. A shed now, that doesn't mean ADU requirements.
Okay.
And multiple ADUs with the new bill.
Oh, I what that question means, Shala.
Like how, with the new build, how many ADUs, I'm assuming?
Well, if you have an existing single family, you can convert part of that into a junior ADU, and you can add a detached ADU. So you have 3 units there.
Gotcha.
It's always important to check the zoning of the property, because if it's multifamily, you're allowed to do more units.
Right. Let's just say that they're in a single family.
ADUs. So when it's multifamily, you're allowed to do more units and an ADU. So
okay.
ADU are 2 separate things.
Say that again one more time.
So people confuse the word units with ADU. For multifamily zones, you're allowed to do more than 1 unit. So you're allowed. It's like a duplex. You're allowed to do a detached ADU if you'd like. So So yeah, it depends on your zoning. So
gotcha.
It's not just, can I build an ADU? Yes, it takes a lot more than that. It's just finding out the research. If you have a multifamily, it's always good to see what's the max you can do.
Absolutely. And like, again, everyone, it starts with the question, right? So if you have additional questions, more detailed questions, we'd love to connect you with Dave. Reach out to us. You can reach us at 626-255-2783. You can find us on the website. You can also reach out to us on our social media and DM the word or the initials ADU, and we'll reach out to you and connect. Make sure that we introduce you to Dave and take it from there. Dave, once again, thanks for your time. We appreciate all the information on ADUs. I've certainly learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience has as well. So thanks again.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad I can share the knowledge.
Thank you, Dave. Once again, everyone, thanks for joining us for our Wednesday Hot Topic. I hope that this was an informative session for you. We look forward to seeing you next week on our next week's Wednesday Hot Topic. And once again, thank you for joining us. I'm Hector Aguilar, along with Ben, your agent, and we're Aguilar Realty Group. We'll see you next week, guys. Take care.
Peace.
Have a good one.
Stay.